After I died, I woke up inside a strategy game. The system assigned me 3 male leads. If I followed the system's plan and successfully conquered any one of them, I could return to the real world and be revived. Using my experience, I carefully crafted a romance strategy for each of them, yet not one succeeded, because all of them fell for the world's dazzling, universally adored heroine instead. They hurled harsh words at me, wishing me dead on the spot, and as they wished, the system erased me for failing the mission. But after watching me die, they were full of regret, begging the heavens to give me back to them. Chapter 1. Host. Based on the system's diagnostics, you have failed your mission since you were unable to complete a successful strategy route. The system will now proceed with your erasure. The mechanical voice echoed in my mind as I stood in the shadows, watching the wedding unfold. Inside the grand hall, Leonardo and Alice exchanged sweet smiles as they leaned in for a kiss, accompanied by cheers and applause. This was my last lifeline, the final strategy the system had given me, and it had failed, just like the rest. I had transmigrated into this world as a 3-year-old child. The system made me an offer. As long as I successfully conquered any one of the 3 male leads within 20 years, I would be allowed to return to my original world, alive. Now, 20 years had passed. I hadn't succeeded with a single one of them. Maybe this was how it was meant to end. I turned away from the wedding and walked toward the overpass bridge crowded with traffic. The system said I had to wait. It needed to report the mission failure to higher authorities before officially erasing me. I stood there, staring at the cars rushing beneath me, my mind replaying all the hatred those 3 male leads had thrown at me. Their disgust, their coldness, their biting words. All for the same woman, Alice, the beloved heroine of this world. According to the system, she was the central figure of this universe, the designated female lead with a built-in charm filter. All the male leads would naturally fall for her, unable to resist. And me? I was nothing but a supporting villainess, an outsider designed to make her shine. Was this my fate? To be hated and erased, simply because I didn't belong? Forget it. At this point, what was the use of asking why? Since I was going to die, I might as well die on my own terms. I stepped off the curb and wandered into the street. If I had to be erased, I'd rather go out with a dramatic corpse than silently vanish. Let them be forced to bury me. Let them feel the guilt, even if just a little. But before I could take another step, the shriek of tires pierced the air. Then came a sharp, furious voice I hadn't heard in a long time. Jessica, if you're going to die, do it where no one has to see you. Don't fucking embarrass yourself in public. I looked up and saw him, my half-brother in this world, the only blood relative I had left here. He was the one who once offered me kindness, a rare tenderness in this cold world. I had trusted him, wholeheartedly, believed he was the only one who cared about me, until he, too, fell for Alice. All it took was one tearful claim from her, that I had bullied her in school, and he believed her, without question. From then on, he despised me. Now, Dominic shoved me into his car, drove off, and stopped at a remote roadside. Then, without a moment's hesitation, he dragged me out and slapped me across the face. If you want to die, go die somewhere no one has to clean up after you. Look, I've even picked the perfect spot for you. Go ahead. Don't waste my time. My ears rang from the slap. I wobbled but stayed on my feet. It wasn't the first time I'd tried this in front of him. He must be used to it by now. Back then, I had only wanted to prove he still cared. That somewhere in his heart, he still saw me as family. I never really wanted to die. Maybe that's why he thought I wouldn't do it for real this time either. Brother, I whispered. Why are you here? Weren't you just at Alice's wedding? Did you come because you were worried about me? My voice trembled with a bitter hope I couldn't suppress. I had seen him at the ceremony earlier. Was he really so concerned he followed me out? Even after everything, I still hoped. Still foolish. Chapter 2. But his answer shattered that fragile hope. Don't flatter yourself. I wasn't looking for you. I was on my way home to deliver a jewelry set to Alice. I didn't expect to run into you acting like a lunatic in the street. Let me make something clear. Jessica, stop using this kind of bullshit to get my attention. Don't try to milk my sympathy. I forced a smile, mocking my own foolishness. So he hadn't followed me, he hadn't cared, he just happened to pass by. I really was a joke to think otherwise. I should have known. Dominic had always worshipped Alice. He had chased after her like a loyal simp. Even though she only had eyes for Leonardo, he still bent over backwards for her wedding, fussing over every detail like it was his own. He really did love her to his core. I turned away and walked toward the guardrail. He didn't stop me. He thought I was bluffing again. He even leaned lazily against the car and taunted me. If you're gonna die, hurry up and do it. I need to clean up after you before Alice gets mad. So I didn't hesitate this time. I let the cold water swallow me, covering my face, my ears, my lungs, letting the breath leave my body, letting the darkness come. Maybe, just maybe, they'd feel a little regret. But the next moment, someone yanked me out of the water. Slap. Another loud smack across the face. You really had the guts to try and die. Huh? Dominic was furious. He grabbed me, dragged me back up. Jessica, you don't die unless I say you can die. His hands trembled as he pulled me up the riverbank. Your mother didn't go through hell to give birth to you just so you could throw your life away like this. My mother, the only person who had ever shown me unconditional love in this world. But she was gone now, and I had nothing left to hold on to. Since the system hadn't come yet, I made up an excuse to go home. Dominic kept scolding me like a nagging teacher. So Leonardo got married. Big deal. If you really loved him, you should be happy for him, like I am for Alice. That's what true love means. But he didn't know. I never loved any of them. I only approached them with one goal: to complete the strategy. Chapter 3. I went back home and picked up a sharp kitchen knife. I didn't want to just sit here waiting. If I was doomed to die anyway, I might as well do it myself. After all, I lived alone. No one would be frightened by the scene. I lay on the bed, staring at the white ceiling, tracing the blade lightly against my skin. I couldn't help but laugh at myself. I'd spent 20 whole years in this world, playing at a strategy game. 20 years, long enough for time to fly, short enough to be filled with too many unpredictable things. I thought back to when my mother remarried and brought me into a stranger's house. It was he who reached out to me first, making me trust him completely. I thought I had finally found someone to rely on. With him, I could be free, reckless even. He would always cover for me. And so I tried to repay that brotherly kindness with everything I had. To create the image of a doting little sister, I scrimped and saved all through elementary school just to buy him limited edition figurines. When he schemed against others, I covered for him. When his stomach ached at 3 a.m., I dragged myself out despite menstrual cramps to buy him medicine and care for him until dawn. When he wanted the new limited edition watch, I worked the entire summer and spent every cent on it. I thought our bond, our shared hardships, was something even the heroine of this world couldn't take away. But the heroine's halo was too strong. Even Dominic, a side character barely worth mentioning, was drawn to Alice. The moment Alice appeared, she effortlessly stole the only real familial affection I had in this world. I told myself it didn't matter. I was a person doomed to die anyway. Everyone dies in the end. The only difference is sooner or later. Without hesitation, I slit my wrists and watched the blood spill out. As the warmth drained from my body and dizziness washed over me, I just wanted to slip away quietly. I didn't want to trouble anyone. To make sure it was clearly a suicide and not investigated as foul play, I left a note. I choose to die willingly. No one needs to grieve for me. Though, honestly, who would grieve? I was always so despised. My consciousness blurred as memories of my wretched life swirled around me. No matter how hard I worked to win the male leads, as long as Alice showed up, they all turned on me. Then, just as I thought I could finally leave this cursed world, the door crashed open. Someone carefully wrapped my bleeding arms. I forced my eyes open. Jessica, have you lost your damn mind? The man in front of me was Luis, my former tutor, 7 years older than me. He was one of the system-assigned targets. I remembered how, when my grades were bad in high school, my so-called father had hired a star university student as my tutor. I had thrown myself into studying, because the system told me he was a viable route. So I approached him under the guise of needing help, crafting the persona of a clumsy, endearing beauty who relied on him every day. He even took me to meet his parents. He said I was the first girl he had ever introduced to them. His affection for me rose exactly as I'd planned, fast and steady. I thought I was about to survive. But then Alice appeared again. She shared all of Louis's hobbies. And the moment she saw me, she trembled, curled into his arms, and sobbed. Senior, I don't know what I did to upset Jessica. She's been leading the bullying against me at school. Now I need medication just to sleep. And I've developed depression. Louis tightened his arms around Alice like she was a long-lost lover. Don't be afraid. I'll protect you. That very day, Louis slapped me across the face, told me to get out, and warned me never to bother Alice again, pretending I was a stranger. And just like that, my mission failed once more. Chapter 4. I felt like heaven itself was toying with me. The moment I resolved to leave, one after another they all came to disturb me. An irritation rose inside me. You shouldn't be clinking glasses at Alice's wedding. What are you doing here? My eyes were cold and impatient. I just wanted him gone. He looked gentle and refined, his voice cool and polite. The kind of man who was tender and attentive to women. Back then he was the one who had given me hope, making me think I could survive. And then he was also the one who shattered it, plunging me back into despair. I was feeling unwell, so I went out for a walk. Is it so wrong to clear my head? He sounded increasingly annoyed, his tone colder with every word. Of course, he was another of the male leads, devoted to the heroine. For her, he had given up the chance to keep studying, staying in H City just to be near her. Today was Alice's wedding. No wonder he was in such a low mood. What's going on with you? Thinking of killing yourself again? Or is this just another ploy to get our attention? To ruin Alice's happiness? Jessica, don't think that just because Alice has depression you can fake it too. That trick is old. Once, such words would have pierced me. Now they barely registered. I had heard it all before. Every time. They thought I was faking, scheming, competing with Alice. Their love blinded them. That's the difference between loving and not loving. They could never empathize with me. I didn't even bother defending myself. I stood up, planning to find a quiet place and wait for death. Perhaps it was the first time he'd seen me so calm, as if already dead inside. Louis, for once, felt a flicker of fear. He grabbed my wrist without hesitation and took me to Dominic's house. Then he called Dominic to come back and watch me. Dominic returned with 2 hangers-on trailing behind. Alice, on seeing me, trembled as if facing her worst nightmare, clutching Leonardo's sleeve and hiding behind him. Leonardo didn't even bother to pretend, staring at me impatiently. Jessica, is this fun for you? Competing with Alice over everything, now this? Do you realize this is my wedding day? What are you trying to ruin now? Wasn't bullying her back then enough? You still won't stop. It was always the same, no matter what I said or did. They refused to believe me, convinced I was a scheming, vicious woman fighting Alice for everything. Inside, I felt nothing. Looking at their faces, all I saw was naked disgust. I gave a cold little laugh. What if I told you everything she says is a lie? That she's just pretending to be a fragile little white flower in front of you? What if we switched roles and she had bullied me? Chapter 5. My words left Alice visibly pale. The other's eyes flickered with surprise. Jessica, why are you slandering me? Today is the happiest day of my life. Do you say these things just to ruin me again? Tears rolled down Alice's cheeks, her expression pitiful. It was always like this. She used the same tricks to steal their attention and sympathy. Enough, Jessica. Dominic barked without mercy. You did wrong and still want to smear Alice. Come over here and apologize. Louis, too, frowned. Jessica, stop this. Apologize and ask for Alice's forgiveness and we'll put this behind us. As for Leonardo, he didn't even bother speaking to me. He just bent over Alice, coaxing her softly. Alice truly lived up to her heroine's aura, no matter what she said or did. As soon as Alice moved her lips, they believed her. And me? No matter how much proof I offered, they saw only a vicious woman, watching each of them look at me as if they wished me dead. I suddenly didn't want to explain anymore. After 20 years in this life, for the first time I felt tired. I had schemed and struggled just to survive. But now, for the first time, it felt pointless. This life wasn't worth it. I didn't want to argue. I just wanted to slip quietly out of this world. I turned to leave, only for them to block my way. Don't go. Who knows what tricks you'll use to slander Alice again? Dominic glared at me with disgust. To prevent you from scheming. You'll stay here. You're not allowed to go anywhere. Luis and I will watch you in shifts. Don't even think of harming Alice again. And so they stayed, taking turns keeping me under watch. Leonardo and Alice left together to continue with the wedding. I stayed at Dominic's house that night. He brought me dinner midway through. I had no appetite, no desire to sleep in this place. I wanted them to let me go, and myself too. I sat staring blankly out the window, watching the birds fly free. That was when Luis finally noticed something was off. He grabbed me, forcing me to meet his eyes. Jessica, what's wrong with you? Do you even know who I am? I stared back blankly, my face calm, not wanting to say another word. Dominic also noticed my change, a flicker of panic crossing his face. What's wrong with her? She seems to have shut herself off, refusing to interact. If this keeps up, she'll die. Luis frowned, a belated flicker of pity in his eyes. Looks like this time Jessica isn't lying. She really has depression. Chapter 6. The next day, Dominic and Luis took me to the hospital for a full checkup. Dominic held the test results, his hands trembling slightly. How is this possible? He muttered. Severe depression? Impossible. Once, facing the impossible tasks the system gave me, I had broken down inside, but in front of people I still smiled and acted cheerful. It was only when I secretly felt something was wrong with my mind and went for an exam that I learned I had sunshine depression, a bright, smiling facade hiding deep despair. Luis had known this too, but he chose to believe Alice when she said I had hired people to assault her, convinced I was faking my illness to gain sympathy. I lay weakly on the hospital bed, having gone 12 hours without food or water. Dominic pried my mouth open, trying to spoon porridge into me. I spat it all out without hesitation. Dominic, never a patient man, scowled. You don't want to eat? Fine, let's see how long you can last. Fuming, he stormed out, leaving Luis to intrude on what little peace I had. For once he tried to comfort me patiently, but I couldn't hear a single word. My empty eyes stared at the view outside the window. Jessica, stop using this to get our attention, he said. Honestly, even if you die, no one will grieve for you. At those words, my eyes lit up. I grabbed his hand. Then let me die. Stop interfering. I just want to escape you all. Why won't you let me go? What the hell are you doing? From outside the room, Leonardo suddenly appeared, glaring at me in anger. Jessica, haven't I told you to stop using these tactics to threaten us? He picked up a fruit knife from the bedside table and tossed it onto the bed. I want to see if you really have the guts to die. Here's the tool. Go ahead. They all said the same thing. Certain I didn't dare, certain I lacked the courage. But my hope was gone. My greatest wish now was death. I picked up the fruit knife and, without hesitation, slit my wrist. Blood poured out. Luis yelled for nurses and bandaged my wound. Then, furious, he slashed the air in front of Leonardo's face, trying to jolt him awake. You're insane. Jessica isn't faking this time, she really has depression. Stop provoking her. Luis's words finally broke through. A flicker of shock crossed Leonardo's eyes. He muttered to himself, impossible. No wonder he didn't believe it. Back when I was trying to win this untouchable high mountain flower, I had built myself into a sunny, cheerful extrovert, scheming daily to make him smile. He had a bright future then, until a sudden collapse revealed his heart disease. He'd been devastated, drowning himself in alcohol. I stayed by his side, healing him bit by bit. His blood type was rare, impossible to match. I negotiated with the system to give him my heart. If I succeeded at my task, the system would give me a replacement. If I failed, I would be erased. My points reset to 0. During that time, the system covered up everything, so I anonymously donated my heart to Leonardo. I still remember what he said when he awoke after the surgery. Jessica, everything you've done for me, I see it all. If I betray you, may I rot in hell forever. They say men's promises are lies. They were right. I watched as the nurse finished dressing my wound and even scolded them a little. I turned my head on the pillow, refusing to look at them anymore. Leonardo finally seemed to realize this wasn't a game. A glimmer of regret appeared in his eyes. "How did you end up with depression?" he asked softly. I didn't bother answering. I shut my eyes and turned away. I didn't want them to taint my final moments of peace. Everyone here only filled me with disgust and loathing. Chapter 7. He grabbed my face and forced me to open my eyes and look at him. "Jessica, don't make that face. Look at me properly. Are you trying to steal my attention again? Did you bribe the doctor to falsify your medical records? Say it!" For the first time, I truly felt that my very existence was a joke. They always found some excuse to justify their behavior. I remember the first time I was misunderstood. I desperately tried to explain myself, searched for every possible piece of evidence, just to prove my innocence. But the more I explained, the more they doubted me. Eventually, I got used to taking the blame and being falsely accused, seeing that I was still ignoring him as if he were air. Leonardo clenched his fists and stormed out of the hospital in anger. Luis, seeing that I was in the hospital, felt reassured and left with Leonardo. Finally, I had a moment of peace. In the afternoon, I was discharged and went home, planning to close my eyes and quietly wait for the system to return. Just then, the newly hired cleaning lady pushed the door open. She nervously rubbed her hands together and said with a simple, honest tone, "I just finished cooking. Go eat something." I had no appetite whatsoever, so I told the truth. "Auntie, I'm not hungry right now. You go ahead and eat first." She quickly waved her hands and explained, "Your brother messaged me. He told me I must make sure you eat." I saw the nervousness in her eyes. This was her job, and I didn't want to make things hard for her. "Auntie, please eat first. If I get hungry, I'll tell you. I'll explain it to my brother. Don't worry." She seemed even more flustered after hearing that. Knowing I was sick, she was too afraid to upset me. "Your brother said that if you don't eat today, he'll fire me." Dominic was always like this. He loved making things hard for others. To spare her the trouble, I agreed to eat. That's when Dominic came in and, upon seeing how weak I looked, his face turned dark. "Jessica, is your life that worthless? You're willing to die over a man? You should learn from me and Luis, learn to let go. Love doesn't have to mean possession. We both loved Alice and chose to let her go. Aren't we living just fine now?" I ignored his lecture and sat down to eat. This might be the only person left who still cared about me. I didn't want to make things difficult for her. After sending everyone away, I noticed how unnervingly quiet the room had become. Suddenly, I didn't want to wait passively anymore. Rather than being erased by the system, I might as well take control and end things myself. I took the elevator up to the rooftop. Looking down from the 20th floor, falling from here would surely mean death. Someone from a neighboring floor saw me and screamed, "Someone's trying to jump. Call the police, now." At that moment, Luis and Dominic rushed to the rooftop. Dominic finally looked panicked. He shouted, "Jessica, if you dare jump, I'll burn that whole bookcase of yours." I used to love reading, and I'd collected a whole shelf of books. Reading was the only time I ever felt peace. But Dominic didn't understand. I was always meant to die. His threats meant nothing to me. Luis added, "Have you ever thought about what your brother would do after you're gone?" Dominic? He was just my half-brother. The only pure maternal love I'd ever known in this world was long gone. I covered my ears, not wanting to hear their nonsense anymore. Then, without hesitation, I jumped. Chapter 8. The sound of air roared past my ears. With a loud bang, I felt the cushion below me. Dizzy and disoriented, I saw the crowd gathered around me. Leonardo happened to be driving by. When he saw that the person attempting suicide was me, he rushed through the crowd, calling my name. Before, when I watched other people try to kill themselves, I thought death was something simple and easy. But when it came to me, I realized that dying is also a very hard thing to do. I had fallen from such a high floor, but the air cushion broke my fall. I only ended up with a mild concussion. This time Dominic's anger was the greatest I had ever seen. He immediately arranged for the biggest psychiatric hospital in H City to take me in. Luis fully supported the decision, thinking I was beyond saving. As for Leonardo, he just looked at me with disgust, unwilling to say even a single word. They had once felt a shred of pity for me because I was ill, But now they were back to how they'd always been, only more disgusted. My heart had already been hammered into steel long ago. I was no longer that girl who cried frantically every time she was slandered. Now I was used to being smeared. I wanted to find an opportunity to escape this annoying scene. But they didn't give me a chance. They took turns guarding me, not leaving me even a sliver of freedom. They didn't talk to me either, just mechanically fed me. I had no room to resist, even if I refused food. They would hang me on glucose strips to keep me alive. As soon as my body recovered a little, they immediately arranged for me to be admitted to the mental hospital. I knew once I entered, there would be no freedom at all. I am someone who loves freedom. Going there would be worse than dying now. So, for the first time, I compromised. Lying on the hospital bed, I grabbed the hem of Dominic's shirt with my intact left hand and pleaded, "Brother." I bribed the doctor to fake the diagnosis. "I'm not sick. Please don't send me to the mental hospital, okay?" Seeing me beg like that, Dominic softened for a moment, wanting to agree. I knew if I said this, it would be hard for him to refuse. After all, he had once truly cared for me. But the next second, seeing the bandages wrapped around my wrist, he pushed my hand away with disgust. With rare patience he told me, "No one would slander themselves like this. Jessica, you need to behave. I'm sure you'll get better soon." And so, I was locked without hesitation inside a room of barely 10 square meters. There was nothing but a bed, hardly any space to move at all, apart from meals delivered on time every day. There were 2 nurses taking turns watching me. The nurses never spoke to me. They only did what they were supposed to do. My spirit completely collapsed. I wanted to escape this place quickly, but there wasn't even a single tool I could use. For the first time I felt what true, endless despair was. I screamed in my heart for the system, praying it would hurry up and erase me. But the system never appeared. I didn't know how long this would go on. My phone had been confiscated, and every day was a repetition of the same actions. I didn't even have a moment alone here, even when going to the bathroom a nurse accompanied me. Chapter 9. After a week in this place, Alice appeared in front of me. She found an excuse to send the nurse away and walked toward me with the sharp clack of her high heels, her eyes full of barely hidden triumph. "It's torturing you here, isn't it? You want to die but you can't. Let me tell you some bad news. Everything you're suffering here was my idea." They believed me when I said it was for your own good. I had long since grown used to this sort of thing. She often did this, hoping to see me beg for mercy. Seeing my calm reaction, she grew dissatisfied and yanked my hair. "Do you know how jealous I am of you? In the original world, you had a happy family. Even the man I loved liked you and hated me." For a moment I couldn't even react. In the original world, no one but me should know about that. How did she know? Unless she, like me, was an outsider in this world, a player in the same conquest game. Alice saw my expression and laughed smugly. "Let me tell you the truth, when you accidentally fell to your death, it was my doing. Who would have thought that I too would be killed by a lunatic? We're both players. Your targets were also my targets. The system said there were 2 outsiders in this world but only one can survive. So, I used a few tricks to make them distance themselves from you. Now my task is almost complete." At that moment, I realized why Alice's face looked familiar. She looked very much like my father's illegitimate daughter. I remembered when my father brought her home, none of us liked her. Someone at school exposed her parentage and she was bullied. Even though my father had brought her back, he still loved me. I was with the boy I had long liked. Seeing her being bullied at school, I took pity on her and spoke up to protect her. I thought she would be grateful. I never imagined she would hold a grudge against me all these years. All the suffering I endured after entering this world began with her. Chapter 10. Thinking of this, I clenched my molars in anger. "I defended you from bullying, and this is how you repay me?" Alice sneered, tugging my hair back and forth. "You think I wanted your help? If it weren't for my birth, I'd climb higher and make you all look up to me." So that was it. Everything had been me acting on my own feelings. By helping her, I had ruined her plans, but I had never hated her for her birth. As an illegitimate daughter, she didn't even keep her head down. Instead, she wanted me dead. That alone was unforgivable. If you had been honest from the start, or clearly refused my help, none of this would have happened. I never hated you for being born. I even told my mother not to involve an innocent life. I helped you go to school, you should have thanked me. She didn't listen to a single word I said. She just kept gloating, saying I was destined to be locked up here forever. And she really had tortured me. Day after day here I wasted away, not knowing what my next step should be. I didn't even know how many days had passed. I had become almost numb. Then a boy who seemed vaguely familiar came in and sent the nurse away. He opened the door, took me out of the room, and led me to escape. Since being locked up here, my senses of the outside world had dulled. Only then did I clearly see that the man in front of me was Hudson. I had met him only after entering university. I had heard of his reputation as a playboy who often changed girlfriends. I thought he would be easy to conquer, so I chose him as a target. I remembered how I disguised myself as a delicate green tea girl to meet him, but after knowing him, he turned out unexpectedly hard to conquer. He often stood me up for Alice. So later, I gave up on him and chose Leonardo. Seeing him again now, it felt like those days were long gone. After I started pursuing Leonardo, I never saw Hudson again. His smile was as lazy and casual as it had been back then. Sorry, I came too late. It's okay, you came, and that's enough. Because you came, I can die without regret. I asked him to take me to see the beautiful world outside. We went to see the magnificent Arctic, watched the sunrises and sunsets, and went to an amusement park together. For the first time in this world, I felt truly happy. Chapter 11. At that moment, I heard the system's ding-dong come online. It told me the report had been approved and it would now erase me. I begged the system for 2 more minutes so I could say goodbye to Hudson properly. Fortunately, the system agreed. It must have noticed something. Hudson held my hand, his voice choked with tears. Jessica, I know you don't want to live anymore. I respect your decision. My nose stung. This was the first time someone had truly understood what I wanted. I hugged him gently, inhaling the faint lavender scent on him. After all these years, his scent hadn't changed. Thank you for staying with me at this final moment. Maybe it was because I was about to die that I felt so sentimental. I never imagined that in my last moments, it would be Hudson, whom I hadn't even managed to conquer in half a year, who would stay with me. We said many things we had kept buried in our hearts. He told me that ever since I left, he hadn't been with any other woman. He'd secretly been asking about me, which was how he found out I'd been locked in the mental hospital. As I listened to the system's countdown, I raised my hand and stroked Hudson's hair. I looked at him in puzzlement and asked softly, "You're so good to me. Have you fallen in love with me?" Hudson neither confirmed nor denied it. He only said, "If I could, I'd wish you were the heroine of this world." I didn't answer. As the system counted down, I slowly collapsed into Hudson's arms. The tears he'd been holding back finally fell, dripping onto my face. Now, I could feel that he loved me, but why had he stayed so close to Alice back then? Just when I thought I would go to hell, I slowly floated out of my body, confused. I heard the system's voice in my mind. "Host, after testing, you don't truly want to leave. We'll now give you time to watch their outcome." Me? Not want to leave? That must be a mistake. Before I could react, the system dropped that line and disappeared without a trace. I watched as Hudson pulled out his phone and began calling them one by one, explaining what had happened. Dominic was the first to arrive. Seeing me lying pale in Hudson's arms, he stepped back 2 paces in shock. I looked down at my body, skin and bones after so many days without eating properly. "Jessica, how could she be here?" He muttered in disbelief, biting his lip to stay conscious. Then he lunged forward, snatched my body from Hudson, and angrily demanded, "She should have been safe in the mental hospital." "Hudson, who gave you the right to act on your own? If not for you, Jessica would still be there, safe." Hudson cut off Dominic's blame, explaining the truth. Jessica was suffering in that place, watched every day. No phone, just existing numb in that tiny room. Anyone would want to die. Hudson looked at him with resentment. I hadn't expected Hudson to understand so well what I had gone through in the mental hospital. Dominic, as if stabbed in the heart, got up and pressed Hudson down, starting to beat him. I was protecting Jessica from gossip and slander. If you hadn't taken her out, she wouldn't have died out here. Give her back to me. By the end, Dominic's voice carried a faint sob. It was hard to imagine. All these years Dominic had wished me dead. Yet now that I truly had died. He was crying. You were just imprisoning her under the name of protection. At first Hudson took the blows quietly. But as Dominic spoke more and more harshly, he flipped him over and started hitting back. The two of them ended up brawling in public. Chapter 12. In the end, Dominic brought me back home. When he saw that no one else was around, he finally let himself cry openly. But my heart, already riddled with wounds, felt no waves at all. I even thought Dominic's tears were just a cat crying over a mouse. False pity. Just then, Luis came in. Seeing me lying there covered in bruises, he froze, stunned, unable to believe it. The always calm and self-controlled Luis could no longer keep his composure. Jessica, wake up! Don't scare me, he whispered, step by step approaching my body, shaking it as if he could make me get up. Hudson, watching Luis's display of remorse, turned his head and spat. Now you regret it? What were you doing before? Who are you putting on this act for? Luis ignored Hudson's angry rebuke, only lowering his head and crying. His tears dripped onto my body, even as a soul watching from outside. My stomach churned. Leonardo was the last to arrive. He still couldn't believe I was dead, thinking he could poke through my lie. But when his hand really touched my arm and felt the icy coldness, he dropped it in fright, frozen and at a loss. Hudson saw this and immediately punched him. She's already dead. Even after her death you still won't respect her. All of this happened because of your precious Alice. Are you satisfied now? All three of them denied it in unison. Of course, they still saw Alice as a fragile, innocent girl. Hudson gave a cold laugh. Each of you drove Jessica to her death. Each of you deserves your own punishment. He threw his phone onto the bed. Look at the evidence. Do you still think Alice is so wonderful? Leonardo's hands trembled as he picked up the phone and pressed play. I was also curious what key evidence Hudson had found. On the screen, Alice smoked a cigarette and ordered the girls behind her, go strip Jessica's clothes off and record a video. The girls behind her obeyed, rubbing their hands together as they pinned me to the floor. I begged and begged, but they wouldn't let me go. I bit my teeth, my whole body trembling. This was the darkest moment of my life. Back then no one was willing to help me or believe my words. Only a stranger online encouraged me. I never believed the truth would one day come out. The video looped again and again. Leonardo, unable to bear the truth of being deceived, smashed the phone in fury. Hudson pointed at the phone, glaring at each of them. See this? And you still choose to believe Alice? You've all been brainless, blindly believing Alice. That's why Jessica died. None of them could speak. They all knew that at the time they hadn't just disbelieved me, they had cursed me. Dominic collapsed to the ground, crying and repenting. Jessica, your brother knows he was wrong. Your brother deserves to die. As he spoke, he slapped himself across the face. Hudson crossed his arms and sneered. The real culprit behind all this is you. You're the one who killed Jessica. Then he turned to Luis and Leonardo, his words merciless. Jessica trusted you both. Yet you never believed her. And you, Leonardo, when you were sick, Jessica ran around for you, contacted people to find a new heart for you, stayed with you through your darkest times, and yet you were going to marry Alice. Hudson's words landed like hammer blows, each one clear. This time I saw genuine regret on their faces. But unfortunately, I no longer cared. I was deeply grateful to Hudson for clearing my name and restoring my innocence. That day, they all stayed by my side, each one acting strangely, saying they wanted to make it up to me. Dominic read aloud from my cherished books. Luis took out the exercises we had once worked on and spoke of the emotions behind them. Leonardo muttered endlessly about our past, begging me to wake up and look at him. None of them were doing what they should. Only Hudson seriously handled my funeral arrangements. He stayed as clear-headed as ever, but I knew he was the saddest of them all. He was the type to bury everything in his heart and never show it on his face. Chapter 13. On the day of my burial, everyone wore black, devastated with grief. After placing me in the grave, the three of them went off, downcast, to drink. I looked around at everyone, yet Hudson was nowhere to be seen. Was he not going to say his final goodbye to me? But the next second, I saw Hudson arrive, dragging a tightly bound Alice with him. At that moment, Leonardo and the others pulled out knives hidden on their bodies. Each of them took a turn stabbing Alice. She screamed miserably at first, but her cries grew weaker and weaker. I watched with my own eyes as Alice was tortured to death. And honestly, I felt a flicker of satisfaction, watching them kill Alice so dramatically, murmuring my name as they slit her throat. I felt nothing, but when I saw Hudson pick up the knife, I burst into tears and tried to rush forward to stop him. None of this had anything to do with Hudson. Why was he doing this? I wanted to throw myself at him and hold him, but I forgot I was already dead. I could only watch as Hudson stopped breathing, tears choking me with grief. Host, congratulations. After system evaluation, the other tasker has died. Your target has officially been conquered. You have now completed the mission. The system will return you to the original world. Before I could process it, everything went black. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. The nurse told me Alice had died, and luckily, I'd been brought in just in time to be saved. I stared blankly at the ceiling, tears rolling down my cheeks, repeating Hudson's name over and over in my heart. Then, suddenly, I heard familiar footsteps approaching. I turned my head in surprise and saw someone both familiar and distant. It was only then that I realized the Hudson who stayed by my side in the game was actually my boyfriend from the original world. Thankfully, it wasn't too late. There's still enough time to make things right again.